Hi, this is John Grenham here again, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you to try to answer the question: Is your surname Irish? And spoiler alert, the answer is I don't know, but we'll get to the meaning of that in a while. Surnames are very, very peculiar in Ireland. Let me just show you my own surname in Ireland, Grenham. Here we are in mid-19th century. There we all are, stuck in South Roscommon, just beside the River Shannon. Now, um, one of the most peculiar and important facts about surnames in general, and Irish surnames in particular, is that they don't have nationalities. Um, a long time ago, I wrote a book called Clans and Families of Ireland, and in it, I said that anybody living in the island of Ireland carrying a surname, or anybody born on the island of Ireland carrying a surname, had an Irish surname. And this was militantly, ecumenically, politically correct and completely wrong. The thing about it is surnames don't have nationalities. They don't carry passports. They don't vote. They don't have political opinions. They don't go to church. Surnames are words in a language and affected by all the things that affect language, accent, cultural changes, um, but they don't indicate your nationality or your race. People have political opinions. People think of themselves as belonging to one race or another race. People have passports. Surnames don't. Okay. To illustrate that, my own surname here, Grenham. That in form, in language, that ham at the end is classic Anglo-Saxon English. It's a suffix that means a place name, so Nottingham and so on. A town rather. So it's formally it's an English surname. Now I'm Irish. My family is Irish. My grandparents, my great grandparents, my great great grandparents were all born in Ireland, all specifically born where that little blue dot is on the map there. So my ancestry DNA profile says I'm 100% Irish with a margin of error 4%. So I suspect I'm actually 104% Irish. But the surname is an English word. All right. The reason why you have this intermingling of English language and Irish nationality is because of the conflict that happened in Ireland between two languages over centuries. And the two languages are Gaelic Irish and English. And for most of the last 3 centuries, the language of power was English, the language of record was English, and the vast majority of the population spoke and lived in a completely different language, Gaelic Irish. So you can see when two different languages collide like that and two different power structures, there are going to be some very peculiar outcomes. And one of the things that happened is that um, the Gaelic originals were tortured into English versions. In some cases, they were just transcribed phonetically. So, for example, O'Brien became Brennan. In other cases, they were kind of translated. So, Fox was a translation of the Irish Shonach. Um, in many, many cases, they were mistranslated. So lots of surnames with Ishka in them. Ishka is the Gaelic Irish for water, became Waters. So completely different surnames that happen to have that sound in them became Waters in English. And um, you have this ongoing collision, distortion of surnames from one language into another and from one culture into another. So, is Grenham an Irish surname? I don't know. Okay. Most of the Grenhams on the face of the planet now live in Massachusetts. They're descendants of people who had to get away from the blue dot on the map to go to Boston to build the gas system. And they all had lots of children, and all their children had lots of children, and their children's children had even more children. So most of the Grenhams on the planet are now Massachusetts. Does that make Grenham a Massachusetts surname? I don't know. There's a Grenham Bay in Kent. There are Grenhams in Kent. It's clearly an original surname from there. Does that mean that it's an English surname? I think it's an English surname in England, it's an Irish surname in Ireland, and it's a Massachusetts surname in Massachusetts. And if that sounds very much like Pontius Pilate washing his hands, then so be it. Okay, some illustrations of the weird and wonderful collisions of cultures. One of the most common Irish surnames, one of the three most common surnames in Ireland, is the surname Walsh. Let me just take you back and put Walsh in and show you just how common it is. You can see here that they infest the bottom 3/4 of the island. They're everywhere. And it's unambiguously an Irish surname. It originated in Ireland. It is any Walsh around the country, around the world, will have some Irish connection somewhere. But what does it mean? It means Welsh. It means from the country Wales. All right, so here you have a surname, an Irish surname, that says about the people who are carrying it that they're not from Ireland. All right, keep that in mind. There are similar things. There are, for example, there are surnames based on Viking era forenames that more or less say son of the foreigner. You know, the translation. And one of the things I like about Walsh as well is that in the Irish language, it's Bratnoch. So if we can just come down over here, you see it's on the Bratnoch, and Branagh. Kenneth Branagh would be a version of the Walsh. Bratnoch is the Gaelic Irish for somebody from Bratton. Okay, so if you want to be really mischievous, you could say that what Walsh translates into Gaelic as is British. But that's only because Bratton was the Gaelic for Wales, okay, the Gaelic Irish for Wales. So you can see, even in such a apparently straightforward surname as Walsh, there are all sorts of complications lurking. More complications. Let me take, now there's the surname, Redington. You couldn't get more English than that, could you? Okay, and let's have a look and see where they are. There they are. There are 999 households in mid-19th century Ireland, and they're all clustered in Galway, central Galway, and Mayo. Redington, how did they get from England to... Did some very fertile Redington soldier strike go native and have lots and lots of children? No. What happened is that there was a Gaelic Irish surname, O Mael Darrig, okay, which literally means grandson of the bald red man. Okay, when you see all the Wales, the Muldisses and the Muldats, the Mulvittles and the Mulmichaels around Ireland, you begin to wonder if hair loss was a terrible problem for the medieval Irish. That's not the case. Moel was a way of referring to the very distinctive haircuts that Irish monks used to have in the Middle Ages, a tonsure, apparently a horseshoe-shaped tonsure. So the medieval Irish, being just as mischievous as the modern Irish, took to referring to them as Moel, baldy. So irreverence is in our genes. So what the surname actually means is grandson of the red-faced monk or priest. Okay. When it comes to an English-speaking record keeper writing down the surname, somebody comes, he asks you, what's your name? And they say, Derrig. Okay. In some cases, very few cases, they transcribed it as Mulderry or Mulderrig. But in the vast majority of cases, they seem to have said Derrig, that means red. Let's find a nice, respectable English surname with red in it. So they all became Redington. You can see the original home place is very heavily Mayo and Galway. They're very strongly they're very strongly Irish, but the surname is unambiguously English. And I think at this point there are probably more Redingtons like Grenham, more Redingtons in uh, in Ireland than in England, even though the surname is in form, in language, an English surname. Okay, another example, one that makes this cultural collision even clearer. Smith. Smith classically is the most common English surname. It's an occupational surname. It comes from blacksmith or tinsmith, so it describes what somebody did. And you can see there are lots of Smiths in Ireland. Almost 6,000 households there in mid-19th century Ireland. And they're heavily concentrated in two areas, one around Belfast in the northeast, and the other here around Cavan in the north, in South Ulster, North Leinster, Meath and Cavan. Why those areas? Well, the Belfast almost certainly has to do with the influx of people from over here, from Scotland and from the north of England. So they're the surnames of people called Smith who came to Ireland 3, 4, 5 centuries ago in some cases. But these ones here are a different origin completely. The vast majority of them come from the Irish original MacGowan. Mac meaning son, Gowan meaning Smith. And some of them were transliterated as McGowans, and there are plenty of McGowans, God knows. But the vast majority were, again, the bright spark with the bit of Irish. Let's make this into a respectable surname. They all became Smiths. And one of the points about that particular part of South Ulster, Cavan, is that there was a good deal of plantation. There were people coming in from Scotland and Northern England and being set up by the government. And we won't go into the politics of it, but it means that in this area, there are people who were originally McGowan and are now Smith, and there are people who were originally Smith and are still Smith, and they're living together and they've intermarried. And how can you tell if the origin of your Smith surname is Irish or Scottish or English? In the vast majority of cases, you can't. And that's wonderful. That's exactly the way things should be, I think. Anyway. One of the facts about Irish surnames, about surnames in Ireland, let me be careful about that, is that there are some very distinct localized surnames. If you say your surname is Gallagher, most Irish people can tell you, well, you're probably from Mayo, or your people are from Mayo, or from North or Donegal, West Donegal. If your surname is Ryan, oh, Tipperary. So you can't throw a stone in Tipperary without hitting Orion. There they are. Those surnames are widespread. They're kind of localized. But once you go beyond the big sort of 100 surnames, things start to get really interesting. There are some very strange and wonderful surnames that are the product of centuries of intermingling and of Anglicization and miscued Anglicization. Let me just show you my favorite. Qua. You say you're joking me. That's not a surname. Yes, it is. And there they are in Down, Armagh, in the 1860s. Where does it come from? It's Macqua. Okay, so you can see here, there are other versions of it. Macqua, Macwa. One of the things that the Anglicizers did was to treat Mac and O as if they were completely optional. You just chop them off and use the rest of the word so Macqua became Qua. And where did Macqua come from? You see the surname dictionary down here. It says Mackay, another Scottish variant of Mackay. So originally from Scotland, but Gaelic from Scotland, Mackay meaning son of Hugh. So Mackay, McHugh, McKee, depending on your accent, it could be many things. And Qua is one of the most weird and wonderful things it became. Okay. In the course of putting together surname lists like this and mapping them, you start to come across surnames that are very, very clearly identified with particular areas, and so to deal with that, or to scratch that itch, in the browse section of the site, in the county listings, I've put together these things, surnames. So for each county, there are surnames that are particularly strongly associated with the county. So, for example, Galligan. If you can look, there you are. You can see there's a few that escaped from County Cavan, but most of them are there in Cavan, and you can see there's some wonderful pink man. Okay, pink man in Cavan and in Leitrim as well. Shalvey. Again, you can see a particular area of Cavan, 15 of them there. So that's there for every county, and you can go through it and wonder at the marvellous exotic ecosystem of Irish surnames that has grown up over the centuries. One of the facts about Irish surnames is that this country was one of the first in Europe to adopt hereditary surnames, because of the peculiar clan or tribal based society that existed. Saying who you were related to in your surname became very important very early. So we've had a long time to mangle them and to chew them up and spit them out and turn them into something completely different. Okay, one of the things that the site does is allow you to look at surnames directly. Okay, so you can do a wildcard search here. So take Smith, for example. Smith, I'm entering Smith with an asterisk between the M and the T and an asterisk after the H. And let me show you what happens when I hit go. You find every surname that starts with SM, then has any particular number of letters, then has a TH, and then has any letters after it. So you pick up Smythe, Smythe, Smith, Smythe, SMYTH, SMYTHE. The reason why this is important is that one of the main manglings that happens in surnames is in the accents. So people who were McKay in one county were McHugh in another county. And the distortions happen in the accent, in the vowels. So you take out the vowels and fire the consonants in and see what happens. It may not solve your problems about slippery surname variants, but it will certainly give you plenty of threads to pull and to follow. Obviously, for surnames like Mulderry that became Redington, this isn't going to do much for you. Sheer bloody-minded persistence is the only thing that's going to do it. There's also a feature here that you can browse the surname listings, and this gives you the first two letters of all the surnames that are there on the site. Let me pick, for example, DI. Okay, so you have these Italian surnames here at the top. These would be, the vast majority of them, immigrants who arrived in Ireland via England or Scotland. Lots of them involved in ice cream and fish and chips. But let me pick, pick Diamond, for example. Okay. The surname dictionary says numerous, Ulster generally with lesser numbers in Connacht. Diamond, diminutive of the personal surname Diama. So a northern surname, again anglicised from Odima into Diamond. If you look over here, there are Diamond 188, that particular spelling, clearly clustered in Derry and West Antrim, whereas Diamond, spelt as in the jewel, is much more scattered. That's all very well. This is showing you the number of households in the mid-19th century. What is this here? The all variant sources. One of the things I've tried to do as I've been going through various sources over the years is pick out new surnames or new versions of surnames and relate them to other variants. So what this does is say where the hell I found them. So, for example, Let me see some of the Diamond. There we are, Dublin Church of Ireland Parish Records. And the reason this is a live link, this will take you to the original record. It's part of the transcripts of Dublin Church of Ireland records. And there you have Esther Diamond of Fishamble Street, that particular spelling. Okay, so that's a way of basically one of the first rules of any research is that you're skeptical about what people are telling you, especially what people are telling you on the internet. And here I am telling you it on the internet, but be skeptical. That's the reason that the links are there. You can, if you don't believe me, you can go and see for yourself where the variants came from. Okay, I think I've probably ranted long enough. I hope I've made it clear to you that using surnames as a basis for any kind of ethnic judgment is absolutely bananas in Ireland. It is just not a sensible thing to do. And as I said at the outset, the question, is your surname Irish? Well, pass. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Thanks very much for listening to me.